Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, but today we're going to be talking about the 100 years of movies. This time we are in the year, the 2000s, and we have our very special friend here who, unfortunately, I've known for way longer than I should. Cris Hurtado. Buddy, how are you doing?
Hey Nathan, I'm back to being on the Nathan Jones channel. I cannot be happier. Always down to talk about movies. The 2000s are some of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite decades to talk about movies. Very influential for me. And yeah, I'm excited to talk movies with you, and hopefully your listeners enjoy seeing me again.
I hopefully they will enjoy parts of this. There's certain parts that there's a couple things that the listeners are definitely going to enjoy about this. But yeah, no, what I want to say is that this is what is actually happening in Chris's mind right now when I kept pressing him to do this, and eventually with a gun to his head, that's what happened here. But I'm excited to talk about 2000s movies with you, because I mean, like, when I thought of this decade, I immediately thought of you, because we talked about so many movies from this time period, like just in our conversations, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like the stuff, like that's our teen years, like I was like a lot of our really definitive years. So yeah, I was going to be excited to talk about this. So for the people who aren't aware, so Cris has been a good friend of mine for quite some time, and what this whole series is about is every decade we have been starting since the 1920s. We've been doing a 100 years of movie series where we've been talking about our favorite films of the decades, and now we're at the 2000s, and so we're nearing the end of the year. So I'm excited to talk about this. We both have 5 films that we want to showcase, that we want to share with you, and then we have some honorable mentions. So Cris, did you want to start off with some honorable mentions?
Yeah, for sure. I just think it's such a hard year. It's one of the more difficult decades because there's so many different options you could go with. Like, you could go with dramas and Oscar nominated movies. You could go with comic book movies. You could go with nostalgia, kids films. It's just so many different ones. So when you said only 5 but a bunch of honorable mentions, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I have a few like definitive 5s, but I mean, for honorable mentions, I mean, do you want me to go one at a time, or do you want me to go with just one first and talk about it real quick, or how would you like me to do it?
Before we jump into that, I guess we could just talk a little bit about the 2000s, like kind of what that mean to you, like just in general. What do you think of when you think of the 2000s, I suppose?
I think of movies that, like, basically anything could have got made in the 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, anything could have gotten made and got a lot of money. Some things would stick, some things wouldn't. When it came to Oscar movies, a lot of random movies with weak years being nominated. And then you get some of the best movies ever nominated for Best Picture too. There's just so many different types of things that were coming out. Like, you think about the end of the decade is when I think films and like the Oscars and like dramas were really starting to become very entertaining and competitive. Like, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men in the same year being released.
Right.
Now, like, you think about that kind of crazy things, then you've never seen this at the Oscars before, and I know I'm only talking about Oscars right now, but Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, is basically a accumulation of all three movies for one Oscars. You've never seen that before at the Oscars. I think that's really interesting. You get a lot of blockbusters from the comic book genre of movies before the MCU. And some of those comic book movies I will talk about, they're like some of my favorite movies in that whole genre period. So yeah, the 2000s are very nostalgic for me. A lot of these movies are rewatchable too.
Oh yeah, and I would have to echo that. I mean, for me, it's definitely a lot of nostalgia, and I like what you said with, like, pretty much anything could have been made, which is, I felt like once the once the years were coming near the end of the 90s, where we were getting a lot of some pretty groundbreaking films. I felt like in the 2000s, there's like, all right, the floodgates are here, now we can do anything. So But yeah, I wanted to, just let's start off with maybe one of your honorable mentions, and we can go back and forth real quick.
Okay, yeah. So an honorable mention for me, and I want to get this one off the. I got to put this background for this movie because I want people to listen to me when I talk. Like I want them to be mesmerized. I am not a comedy genre fan, but there are a few comedies that I hold near and dear to my heart. When I think about the 2000s, one of like the quintessential comedies for me, I have to talk about Superbad. Seth Rogen, Superbad with Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Bill Hader is in it as well. You get a young Emma Stone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like this movie is like, I watch this movie a lot and it has a lot of the toilet humor I really enjoy. And then like it's kind of like the decade defining comedy, like not this movie by itself, but like previous movies that follow it. Like you think of movies like Dazed and Confused before that, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then after you get Booksmart, which a lot of these movies feel very similar to being the same kinds of movies.
Like
they kind of
movie.
are they're like the decade defining comedy movie for that decade. And for me, Superbad is that. And I really, really, really like Superbad.
Superbad's a lot of fun. And honestly, I have pretty good memories just watching that with my friends over and over and over again. So yeah, that's a good choice. And it's kind of crazy seeing all those people now, right? Like where they all ended up. Some of them like not really doing anything anymore. Like where's Mintz-Plasse,
He was in Neighbors, dude.
Well, Neighbors was also a long time ago.
Yeah, but that's the thing. These comedies kind of have like these actors are about to blow up or actors that have blown up and they're just got to be in an appearance,
Sure. Yeah, it's a weird time though. I guess, transitioning with comedy, I think with one of my favorite comedies of the decade is one that's not really talked about as much from this duo, but it's one of my favorites, and I definitely could have picked Oh Brother Where Art Thou, but I decided to choose Burn After Reading, which is like one of my favorite Coen brothers performances with Clooney, Brad Pitt, Frances McDormand, John Malkovich, Tilda Swinton, and then of course J.K. Simmons is really, really fantastic in this as well. Yeah, this is just a bunch of bumbling idiots all trying to be in some kind of situation, and I just think it's brilliantly like written, and it's very witty and very stupid, and that's stuff that I really enjoy. So you've seen this one, right?
I have.
You have, unfortunately.
It seems like the more I keep watching Coen Brothers movies, the less I actually like them.
Uh-oh. Trouble.
I don't know what it is, but the more I watch their movies, the more I think they're a little mid. They're okay. They're not as entertaining as I think. I don't think the comedy is very well. I don't think I don't know. There's something about the Coen Brothers. The more I keep watching, they just not do it for me.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who thinks, Inside Llewyn Davis is their best movie. And then Fargo is close second.
Which I talked about Fargo in the 90s.
Yeah, that's, and I like The Big Lebowski. I like to, like The Lasting Power. But I mean, I don't feel like I'm always like, oh, I gotta put a Coen Brothers movie in. Like, it doesn't get better than the Coens, I'm tired of the brothers in like filmmaking. You get the Coen brothers.
He's by himself. He's by himself soon,
Right. But, I mean, you get the Safdie brothers, the fucking Russo brothers, like all these bros making movies, and I'm just kind of like, they're fine.
When are we gonna make a movie?
You get two minds to make a movie. They make movies, and they can't get it right.
When are the Jones and Hurtado, brothers gonna?
Yeah, see, instead of brothers, they're friends that make movies, like Benson and Moorhead. Like I like when those when buddies Benson, like that are making movies. Yeah. That's better.
Yeah, that is. Do you got another?
Heated.
You got to cool down with something else. Give us another one.
Okay. Another movie. I think you can't talk about. Again, this is like a nostalgic kind of decade for me. But these movies are literally is like when it comes to fucking cinema, it doesn't get better than these movies. But I mean, you think about the Shrek movies. The
Uh-oh.
Shrek 1 through 3 is some of this. I think Shrek 1 through 3's trilogy. You don't put in Shrek Forever After. Shrek 1, 2, and Shrek the Third. That trilogy right there is up there with some of the best movie trilogies of all time. Like the
Mhm.
Cornetto trilogy, the Godfather trilogy, the original trilogy, the Star Wars. Put Shrek in there easily, like easily. It's they those movies don't miss. Those first three, they don't miss. And they have homages to other really great movies. Like Shrek 2 is the blueprint for Get Out. And it also is a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner reference movie as well. And they have
That's true.
so many like the jokes still are great. Like they're still funny. Like
When's the last
Shrek
time you
2 is
watched
so
that
funny.
movie?
Which one?
Shrek 2.
Well, we did a podcast episode on
Yeah.
it on Inside the Sequel. And Shrek the Third is my favorite sequel, but Shrek 2 is way better. But Shrek the Third I
Yeah.
just like because they go to college and that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, anyone who wants to hear some nice ramblings on Shrek 2, go check out that Inside the Sequel pod. It's a really fun episode.
100%.
I'm going to switch some gears here for a second for a very out of the blue. I wouldn't say this is a good film necessarily. It's just a film that I think is really kind of a big deal to me, just in the terms of my enjoyment of horror movies, because I didn't like horror movies growing up at all. I was pretty scared of them. But until I watched I Am Legend, this is the first film that actually got me outside of like it scared me. Obviously, there's some jump scares in this movie, but it's not that scary of a. Not I stop that. Yeah, you're scaring me. But anyway, yeah. There's like this movie. I remember watching it in theaters and like kind of covering my face a little bit. Like I literally didn't. I could not stand scary movies. I was scared of them. And then I watched this, and then I was like, I thought about it, and I watched it again. I was like, okay, I think I'm starting to get it now, and why I enjoy stuff like this. But yeah, like I said, not the best movie in the world, but I did want to bring it up because it's kind of fundamental to how I am now, and I love horror movies, but I haven't returned to that movie in a long time. So, but
Right. And I mean, it doesn't have, I mean, they don't have to be such strong movies. Like, they don't have to be like some of the best movies ever,
yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about one
Let's
of the
talk
best
about
movies of this decade.
okay, what's your first favorite?
My first favorite's King Kong from 05, 2005, Peter Jackson's King Kong. Like,
Okay.
look at this image behind me. Like, fucking, this movie is ahead of its time. Technologically speaking, from a filmmaking standpoint, the acting is superb. Agent Brody, Jack Black. Yeah, so you get Naomi Watts into there as well. Kyle Chandler's in this movie. You get Andy Serkis doing the motion capture for Kong, as well as being one of the actors in the movie. You get not Chet Hanks, but the other Tom Hanks' son. Per Peter Jackson fashion, they're longer movies. But to me, like seeing the original King Kong, watching 79 Kong, watching Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong, King Kong escapes, I still think 2005 King Kong is the definitive King Kong movie. Like it has everything I want from a movie monster standpoint. I get a lot of drama. I get awesome action and wonder.
I was gonna say I even get horror from it too. I mean that bug scene, that whole valley scene is like one of the most terrifying scenes I remember. I mean, this is the same time I brought up I Am Legend, but like obviously a few years before. Yeah, it scared the hell out of me. But
yeah, I agree. No, it's really scary. But man, this movie just was like, yeah, and it came out in the middle of the decade. I feel like it kind of. I don't know what the numbers were for this movie, whether it made more money or did it make enough money, but I remember after I saw this movie in theaters and I watched it a lot growing up, which is weird because it's such a long movie. Also, like the scenes with the natives on Skull Island were very creepy and it was very violent scenes. Yeah, definitely an entertaining, like must see kind of movie when it came out.
yeah, it looks like it made $500 million, a little almost 600. So when it was on a budget of 200 million, so it made its money worth and doubled it. So yeah, that movie It's fantastic. It's been a bit since I've seen it. That would be nice to get a 4K of that. I would really enjoy that. Because that movie is beautiful. It's really, really well made. So due for a rewatch on that one. Going back in time though, to 2000 is a film that you and I feel like we've talked about before in the past, but is a movie that like just has never ever it left my mind when I saw it, and I've seen it subsequently since. But I'm talking about Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love from 2000, and this is just an absolutely stunning film, just based on just a very simple story of a man and a woman who live across the way from each other in an apartment building. Both of their spouses work opposite schedules, and they're just like some passing glances. They interact a little bit with each other, and then they kind of just notice that, you know, that they might like each other more than as tenants and as neighbors. And it's all about subtlety. This movie is all exactly what Chris is doing. It's just all about subtlety. It's a beautiful film, and it's also it's got a great score in it too, and great cinematography. I have the box set over there too, and I know a lot of people who have the Wong Kar-wai box set are a little upset with like some of the color changes and stuff, but I have this original version here, so there's not much green, there's more red in this one. But this movie is just unforgettable, and it's like one of my favorite romantic films, even though it's not a happy romantic film, but it is definitely one of the best films I've seen from the 2000s, and one that I feel like is talked about quite a bit, but it's also one that deserves a lot more credit. So
it's like, hey babe, are you in the mood for a Criterion by chance?
Yeah, you could put it on your screen. I am in the mood for one. We're gonna watch that afterwards. Everybody else, that's what I've made Chris agree to, is he's got to watch a Criterion after this with me.
Okay, I will match a Criterion for another Criterion by top 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got King Kong in there. I have another. I'm gonna go with Yi Tu Mama Tambien as a top 5 for the decade. You know, foreign language film out of Mexico from Alfonso Cuarón. I love his filmography in general. I don't know how many movies you've seen from him, but every movie I've seen of his, like, I really, 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 really like. He's just one of those foreign language directors that's seamlessly made it to the mainstream of American audiences in filmmaking. All his movies feel different. He doesn't have a distinct style of directing. He just, you know, when you watch a Del Toro film, you know it's a Del Toro film. You know, and you watch Iñárritu's films, like they have a very, very, you know, similar sense of scale. And when you think of other directors, you know, foreign language directors in the past, they always have a distinct style. Alfonso Cuarón really never has that. His style is really just giving a very strong human narrative. That's really like his strong suit. He understands the human emotion in tie with an event.
Mm-hmm.
And that event can be anything from 2 people going in space to a maid interacting with a change in her surroundings to, in this movie, 2 boys coming to understanding maturity and growing up. Diego Luna and Gal Bael Garcia. They're just phenomenal in this movie. It's a very, and here's the thing about when I tell people about Y Tu Mamá También, it's very different than what you're going to be accustomed to thinking about teenagers and how they act. Like horny teenagers is such a thing, but in this movie, you know, in Mexican culture, you know, it's a little bit more, you know, open. It's more like you watch a Mexican film, you know, you watch Life, you know, you just watch Beautiful with Javier Bardem and stuff like that. Like Mexican films are not going to be ones to shy away from sexuality. And with this movie, the same thing. Like there's scenes of the guys just jerking off next to each other, you know, but it's like, yeah, it's weird to say that out loud, you know, but like when I'm watching this movie, I'm kind of laughing and I'm kind of like thinking like these guys are just so in tune with themselves. Yeah. Exactly. Like, but I was like, I remember doing that myself, but in this movie, it's so much about them and like, understanding what it is to be a man, a young man, and controlling your emotions, and also them wanting to pursue their cousin's wife, who's older. There's a lot going on when you're talking about this movie, but it makes sense when you're watching it. And at the end, it is so cold. It is such a stone cold, honest ending. And I love that because Cuarón eventually shies away from that and gives more hopeful endings from there. But Y Tu Mamá También is like one where it's like, God damn, it is so honest at the end. And I love that. And the surprise, I enjoy it too. It's very tender because even though this movie is very childish at times with the main actors, there's still emotion and there's still like an understanding of like the human connect with these events. They're going on a road trip. How many of us have been on road trips? We understand things that we want to look for in those. But yeah, Y Tu Mamá También, it's totally a movie I would put in the top 5 for me.
Yeah, I that movie crossed my mind when I was making this list, for sure. It's one of the, I think it's either like the 3rd or 4th film that I watched from him, even though this is probably the one that like put him on the map for a lot of people, I suppose. But yeah, I love that film. And yeah, I think it's interesting because like, you're talking about like how it's kind of cold ending. In the Mood for Love also has a very cold ending, but in a different way, even though I feel like that movie's a lot more, I mean, they're both based kind of more in realistic standpoints, like if the situations of what's going on. So like this is what actually would probably happen. And like, that's, where that would go. So yeah, good choice. And I love Alfonso Cuarón. Yeah, looking forward to watching more of his stuff as he grows older.
Yeah, he's just a weird director that covers very, very many different types of genres. Like he did 3 big movies in this decade. He did Prisoner of Azkaban, and then he did Children of Men as well.
That's another one that I almost brought with me, was Children of Men. So
yeah,
it's crazy. And they're also and the thing is, like, those are all different places too. I guess Children of Men and Harry Potter are more England, UK area, but it's interesting. And then like having him come all the way back, all the way to Roma.
Yeah. Roma's kind of going back to, it's like him revisiting the ideas of Y Tu Mamá También and applying a more mature lens in it,
and like his real life experience with the people he's met. So it's cool. But I'm sure we might talk about that in the 2010s. Who knows? But yeah, great choice. Let's take a little break from our choices here. I am not on my second pick yet, but I will do an honorable mention real quick. Since we're on the topic of Mexican filmmakers, actually, I wanted to talk about Del Toro with the film that a lot of people would, very obviously, anyone who knows my channel, I would choose, but I've decidedly not chose it for this. But I'm talking about Pan's Labyrinth right here, which is my favorite Del Toro film. And it always has been. It's just a film that I watch regularly every year, every October. And I was able to recently see this actually in the movie theaters for the first time. And it was just an amazing experience. It's just a movie that has a really great combination of historical fiction and fantasy. And that's something I've always loved growing up. And that's something I know Chris and I haven't talked about this necessarily on camera right now, but Chris and I both really love like war films and growing up and seeing the stuff like maybe like Braveheart, Gladiator, Troy, these kind of things, these war type films. But then also you see this like actual like historical war with the Spanish Civil War going on, and like having the consequences of that in a fantastical way. It's just a really fantastic. But anyway, I'm talking too much about this honorable mention, right? Also, it's the Criterion, so I should put it away, right?
Dude, all you're picking are things from the Criterion closet.
Shut up. We're doing a Criterion closet bit. You remember when we used to do that?
Yeah.
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 Uh-oh.
And they abandoned us.
They've abandoned us, or they abandoned our children. We're not talking about There Will Be Blood, though. Okay. So now I will actually choose my second, because I know Chris has already chose his second here. And then we'll go on to some more honorable mentions. But I'm going to talk about a film from 2002, and it is a Brazilian film. It's one that we both have seen. We've talked about as well, but I'm talking about City of God. And man, oh man, this is a movie that has never left my mind after I saw it. It is one of the most intense movies I've ever seen, and also like probably probably one of the more realistic films too when it comes to what's actually happening in like Rio de Janeiro. Can't ever say his name, the country's capital in Brazil. But it's directed by Fernando Meirelles.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is such a crazy film. It's a long film. I think it's one of the longest films that, like, when I started getting into more into like just movies in general, this is one of the first foreign films that I've seen, and it was just one that was it just kind of like broke a lot of the rules that I didn't expect. I'd seen stuff like West Side Story, and I'd seen Godfather, so I had seen like bits and pieces of things that are kind of like this but not really like this at all. So it's just really strange to like think about this movie all these years removed from the first time I've seen this. What about your thoughts on City of God?
No, I love the movie to death. I think it was big. I think it's a must watch movie for sure. I'm surprised when I had talked about it that none of you guys had seen it from our group chat. I don't think anybody else has seen it but you.
Yeah.
And I've constantly have told you all to watch this movie. It's amazing. Yeah, it's very realistic, and it's approach to showing what life is like growing up in poverty. Fernando Meirelles, the director, I'm a big fan of his. He did one movie, I can't remember. Like, I know he did some work, but he also did The Two Popes, which was nominated for Best Picture 2 years ago, which I thought was actually really good. Like, it was late in the game. I think it was a Netflix exclusive movie, but I think it was really great. He really understands storytelling, like realistic storytelling, and making, like, you think about like movies with historical events being the main story and it's over dramatized, or it's like it's basically doing a genre, right? It's like a comedy approach to a real life event, over dramatic approach to it. This movie is just kind of like a day in the life kind of movie, and you follow a protagonist who's living through it. And I like it. And the protagonist is a big fan of film. So yeah, I've always enjoyed that. You get introduced to different characters, and each character's like introduction feels like a small little mini arc of the movie itself. Yeah, I really, really enjoy City of God. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah, that's I like the way you said that. It's like there's so many characters in this movie that like there's like it's like a mini arc of the movie itself, and following it that day is a very long day. If it is a day, but like it's quite an intense experience, and it's necessary. I feel like everyone should watch that movie. So
it literally is on IMDb's like must watch movies before you die.
That's probably where I found it back in the day. So, all right. What about some honorable mentions you got?
Another honorable mention. I don't know if it's just like something's wrong with me, but I feel like it's something wrong with society. Why do people hate 10,000 BC? Like, I really like 10,000 BC. I talked about it on my podcast when we did our Decades podcast with Mitch Oliver and the Tier Table and Daniel from the Cobwebs podcast, and with me, and they laughed me almost off the podcast when I talked about nominating 10,000 BC. Oh, like, I saw this movie in fucking theaters. The poster got me hyped.
Yep, I remember.
It gave me such like because like it came out around the same time Year One was coming out, the comedy with Jack Black and Michael Cera.
Yeah.
But this like the real version. But this movie, why I like it, it's a mix of Apocalypto and Troy. And I like both those movies. And in this movie, it's a prehistoric movie. It just, you don't see movies like this. Movies that get like a visitation of like, indigenous people and it's not overly dark and brooding like Apocalypto, but it has a little bit. It has some fun with it. Like, sure, the saber-toothed tiger doesn't look so good anymore, but I like the approach of like the bad guys being like these evil zealot religious people. Like I like 10,000 BC. I don't know why people don't like it. I think it's a really entertaining movie, and I'm gonna put it in my honorable mentions for the decade because fuck it, like that movie needs some respect.
You just throwing spears at us, huh? With I had
Dude,
no idea
the
that you were
slow-mo
gonna.
spear throw is so good.
I have not thought about that. I will say I have not thought about that movie in a long time. And now I will not be like those folks at the on the podcasts. But man, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that, but like, I'm definitely due for a rewatch. Because I mean, like you said, I enjoyed Troy and Apocalypto too. So, any combination of that's good with me. So
I just don't know why people think they're above these popcorn movies.
I don't know why people can't get over themselves and enjoy things like my next honorable mention, Garfield 2, Tale of Two Kitties, right here.
No, it's not.
Okay, you're right.
I know it's not.
Did you know I was gonna play that?
I figured. I was like, there's somebody's gonna mention Garfield.
Well, I know. But no, for real though, an honorable mention here that I have is I'm going through the list of things that like it would be pretty obvious for me to choose, but I'm deciding not to choose them. You mentioned No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, but also this year, the movie that I like to talk about all the time that is underrated and not talked about that too much is The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which is like one of my favorite Westerns of all time. Incredible movie with Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. Really fantastic score by Warren Ellis and Nick Cave. It's just like, I don't know. This movie just blows me away. I'm surprised it hasn't been given like a I guess a boutique release from any of the labels, because I have a feeling this will eventually will be. But it's just such a good movie. It's so damn good. I love it. Check it out, everyone, if you haven't seen this.
It looks like it'd make a really good Mill Creek release.
Oh God, please, Mill Creek, if you're watching this, you heard Chris. Get on it.
Yeah, if Mill Creek sent me movies for free, I would fucking return them. Yeah, that's just a me thing, maybe. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want this. Take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me another honorable mention.
Another honorable mention, Jesus. Just to end the debate now, I think There Will Be Blood is better than No Country for Old Men. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't want to make There Will Be Blood be my honorable mention, but I just want that to be known. That's where I stand. I think that movie's way better. The Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography is stronger than the Coen brothers, I feel. But if I were to put another movie in as an honorable mention, I would say Bryan Singer's X2.
Oh my
X-Men
God, 2. Yeah. X2.
Yeah, like we got to talk about comic book movies. There's a lot of different comic book movies you can talk about, but one of my favorites is X-Men, the X-Men trilogy. X-Men Last Stand is my favorite, but X-Men 2 is like the best, and it's close to my favorite as well. To me, it kind of goes 3-2-1 for me, but in reality it's 2-3-1.
It should be it's 2-1-3, but go on.
I just love Stryker.
3's fun.
3 is entertaining. Like,
it's fun,
like,
but
good moments.
2 is the best. So
I think the Last Stand parts are really good compared to the fight scenes on the Statue of Liberty in the first movie. You know,
they're just getting they're trying to figure it out. So
I don't like Sabretooth either. That's my other problem. I don't like Sabretooth.
But Toad's your guy.
But I really liked I'm talking about X-Men 2. I don't want to talk about X-Men 3 too much. But X-Men 2, what I really like about it is I love Stryker's character. I love everything on the dam scenes. You get Nightcrawler in this movie, and he's phenomenal. I like the Bobby Iceman and Rogue chemistry in this movie. It's really, really, really good. It's a shame we can't get a very good Rogue Um, like Rogue should have like her own movie maybe by now, since the MCU's bought in like Marvel, and they're gonna probably do like, like X-Men Legends or something, and
They'll do
whoever they
some maybe
cast
like
is
a TV series or something. That would be cool.
or something. But
Yeah,
like Rogue is so well portrayed in these movies. Um,
Anna Paquin
I've
does a
always
great
noticed that.
job. Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I mean I can't think of Rogue without. I mean that there's some really that's the cool thing about these. I mean those Bryan Singer films in particular, like Hugh Jackman, Anna Paquin, like these are people I specifically think of these characters, and they actually they
Mm-hmm.
did a really good job casting them. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So
Yeah,
X2 though,
I just think all three of them are amazing, but X-Men 2 specifically needs to get that honorable mention.
I was like one of the first fight scene, like that fire that SWAT, oh, like one of those SWAT.
Yeah, the SWAT team, the flamethrower comes out. Yeah.
That was
It
one of the
and it
most
feels like a high
memorable.
school movie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're all just like like they're all waking up. They're all just children and stuff, and it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. That's such a good movie
Mm-hmm.
though. You ready to move on to the third?
Yes.
All right, baby. Time to talk about since it's December. I decided to choose a Halloween or Halloween. I decided to
Bruh.
choose a Christmas film of sorts to show everyone. One that I've grown to love over the years, and it's one of my favorite from this director, from Shane Black, and it is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. With Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. And this is like right
Hmm.
around the time that Robert Downey Jr. was like right at getting out of like his crazy phase before Iron Man, or around that, like just right before it. And man, this movie is a lot of fun. It's just it's a buddy cop film. I mean, that's what Shane Black's known for. He's done Lethal Weapon, obviously. Nice Guys was later in the 2010s. He does those really really well, and I think his like kind of dark comedy mixed in with like a noir. He has a really good take on like those older classic films of just trying to figure out those detective stories. I mean, I can even think of like The Long Goodbye, right? These kind of things. So anyway, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's kind of set around Christmas time, so it's a film that I would highly recommend. I watched it last Christmas around that time period, and as a rewatch, and it was like my third or fourth time watching it. There's a lot of funny scenes in this movie, and these characters in particular, Val Kilmer's character is unforgettable. So quite a bit of fun right here. You seen this one?
I haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
You
I'm
should.
not a I, I don't I mean Shane Black is Shane Black.
Did you like
I've
Nice
seen a
Guys?
few of his things. Yeah, I've seen the Nice Guys.
Do you like it?
It's cool. It's a good time.
All right. It's the same vibe, pretty much.
I also saw The Predator, and
No, that's
not a good
different.
vibe.
That's a different vibe. I don't want to talk about that. But I've seen Predator, who it has Shane Black in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Much better film. All right. Moving on to your number three.
From my list, I gotta talk about. I'm a sucker for some, like, depending on the period. I'm a sucker for period pieces and romance. I've talked about it when I talk about the decades list with Chris Bowie from Film Stock before. Cold Mountain with
Oh
Jude
wow.
Law, Renee Zellweger, and Nicole Kidman. Um, that's my number three. Cold Mountain from 2002, I believe. I don't know what it is about that movie, but I love watching it. It's a longer movie. It's about it's kind of weird that they're Southern, during the Civil War, but it's like it's about people from the South who didn't want to be in the South, like they were kind of forced to be under this regime. I think Jude Law is really good. He feels very epic and like such a good guy. Um, Nicole Kidman and Renee Zellweger are very, very strong female leads in this movie. Zellweger won the Oscar for this movie. It has a young Natalie Portman in this movie as well, on top of a very young Charlie Hunnam, who's terrifying as fuck in this movie. And you get Jack White in this movie as well, which is great. And the fat brother from My Name Is Earl, which I forget his name.
Oh man. I have not thought about this movie since 2003 when it came out. Man, that's a movie I need to rewatch because I don't remember like anything from it. Like that's the thing is like because I hadn't seen it in that long, it must have been. I mean, like I know now if I went to it now watching it, I know I would have a very different opinion on it. But yeah, I have not heard about that movie in forever, so that's a great pick.
I mean,
Something.
the premise is Jude Law is forced to enlist to fight for the Confederacy when he's living in this town with Nicole Kidman, who is like a Southern Belle type, and they fall in love, but he has to go away to war. And while he's away at war, there's like a militia group that's in charge of the town, and they kind of are very scummy, and they're basically taking advantage of everyone.
Mm.
And knowing that the war is going to end soon, they still kind of like abuse their power. And basically, Nicole Kidman and Renee Zellweger have to like defend themselves from this band of rogues. And Jude Law basically is escaping war to try to return back, and it's not a very good journey for him. Like there's even scenes with a very young Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie too, and he's trying back from the war back to Nicole Kidman, and it's such a over drama melodrama. But I'm such a sucker for it, and people talk about things like Gone with the Wind and stuff like that. When it comes to the Civil War genre, I think Cold Mountain's the best movie easily. It captures everything that's romanticized in the Civil War, and it catches the ugliness of the Civil War as well. But yeah, I totally recommend Cold Mountain.
Hell yeah, I'll have to choose that one soon. Let's transition before we get to our fourth and fifth pick to some more honorable mentions. Do you have any? You have some more still?
So I'm not gonna put this movie in my top five. It just misses out. I would say it's Ghostworld by Terry Zweigoff. It's a pitch black, off color, coming of age movie. He has a young Scarlett Johansson. I forget the lead actress's name. And she's like a goth girl in the movie. You also get Steve Buscemi as well. The movie is just it's just an offbeat comedy, and it's just very like you think about like the emo kids who are just like, oh yeah, who cares? I'm just gonna off myself later on today anyway. Ha ha ha. Like it's kind of that kind of offbeat humor that I really kind of enjoy. It's I can't really describe the movie. It kind of like details the complicated life of a high school graduate who like has to figure out what kind of direction they want to take in life when they don't have any direction. And I very, very much enjoy it. This movie would go well with like Frances Ha in a way, where it's like the leads they just can't figure out what they want to fucking do. So they go to different places and with different people. It also like visits the troubling things that we kind of appreciate at its time. Like there's like the mamas like on like merchandise and stuff like that. This movie kind of calls that out, which I think is interesting. There's even a scene like that talks about making fun of collecting, and I was like, as a Blu-ray collector, I feel called out. Also, the ending is very oddly up to interpretation of what happens, and it can make the movie very sad. Ghostworld is a movie I just didn't expect to love so much, but on a first watch, it was just like a perfect movie. It just really hit really good for me.
Yeah, I could think of some other movies that I feel like would make good features with like Reality Bites makes sense with it, and I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like that movie is about a movie about like outsiders and people who like it didn't have much direction outside of the fact that like, oh yeah, we're just screwing around the whole time in high school, and then oh yeah, shit, we got to do something. I feel like it might be a good rediscovered. I know this is a weird take, but like I feel like the generation that of at least the people younger than me, I feel like if they rediscovered this movie or something like that, they would enjoy it because it's a lot of people would find solace in it a little bit more. So then I don't know how to describe that, but just like there's more of that coming about. But I guess that's just like most young coming of age films anyway, I guess for the most part, and that just has to be Ghostworld. But yeah, there can be some solace in that. But yeah, good movie. What
I
were
was
you
gonna say,
gonna say?
did you relate to it? With your offbeat comedy?
To an extent. I mean, like, I don't know, like I was never like super like cynical growing up, like, or anything like that. I mean, I said funny stuff, so I guess to an extent, certainly, yeah. I mean, like I was one of the class clowns, so yeah, I guess like
Yeah,
I did
still
some of it.
are.
Oh
Take
shoot.
your mask off.
Uh-oh. Trouble.
Yeah.
It's true. True. He knows me. He's taking a class from me, everyone. So
Yeah.
he knows what's going on. But that's a good movie, man. I have a honorable mention here in front of me that everyone who's seen the channel knows that I would talk about. Um, I consider this my second favorite movie of all time. This is probably my favorite independent movie of all time. Talking about In Bruges, in Bruges, right here with Colin Farrell,
Oh,
Brendan
I thought it was.
Gleeson. Hmm?
Oh, I thought it's called In Brugs.
It's up to interpretation. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, we got Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ray Fiennes in this movie. The perfect three people to play this movie. This is just me to a T. It's black comedy, action, drama, even a little bit of romance, and there's all these things combined to it that just make it like there's even fantastical elements into it as well. A very pessimistic film. It's a little cynical, but at the same time, it's just kind of showing it's very human. This movie is very, very human, which is why I like it so much because I every time I see it, I pick up something new, and I've seen this movie like 50 times. So, and I try to show people this movie too. Most of the people who've seen it have enjoyed it. Maybe not to the extent that I do, but I mean, when I showed you this, did you enjoy it at all? No, he didn't. No, nah.
It's a good movie. It's such a I haven't seen a movie like In Bruges. That's what's I think weird about it for me. I expected it to be one kind of movie and it isn't at all. It's like a bunch of different types of movies. So I can't really pinpoint it. So like there's things I really like in it and then there's some things I don't like, but I think it's because it just the tonal shifts are crazy. But the one thing I don't think is bad at all is the acting. All the acting is great from the main leads.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's definitely a movie that's very special to me. So I hope anyone who hasn't seen it can check it out and figure it out themselves. It's probably on some kind of streaming service, but
Yeah,
I
I
guess
would say you definitely need to watch it though.
yeah. And I feel like it's a movie that like deserves multiple watches, like because you're not going to catch the most of because you were saying like you have maybe this weird expectation going in, and then it's just all these
Mhm.
different things, and you're just like, what did I just watch? So I
Mhm.
don't know. That's just one of those things that like I picked up on a lot more the more I saw it, and I was like, wow,
Mhm.
there's like a lot of layers to this movie, and different layers you got to be on because there's like that comedy comes right out of nowhere, and then the drama comes like straight up like and down this way, and it's just like and it just kind of really it's very snappy and very fast paced with the directional change. I feel like so that's probably why the tonal shift happens a lot. But anyway, you got another honorable mention?
A movie at the end of the decade. I could have gone with it's funny, it misses out on the honorable mentions. But it's gonna be two horror movies. I would say I would have put down Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi,
Sam Raimi, yeah.
but I can't put it in because I'd much rather put Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in this movie in this. Um so it's December. We should be talking about horror movies, but October, I mean, it was the Halloween Kills, everything was Halloween this, Halloween that. And I feel like people forget about how awesome Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007 and Halloween 2 from 2009 is. Like, don't claim to like A24 films and art house horror films if you don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, because honestly, Rob Zombie wrote the blueprint for these A24 horror movies that we're getting in the 2010s. He did this with Halloween 2, and he also did it with The Lords of Salem. Like, he really kind of put this on like the mainstream. He got the money for it. He got his vision to do the things. He did good enough in 2007 for studios to let him do another movie. I think he surpassed the expectations for 2007's Halloween remake. I think he improves upon it in a completely different direction. I would dare say he rivals even John Carpenter in his 2007 remake. And then in 2009 with Halloween 2, we get a brand new Halloween movie. And it's funny because we're already at like 3 or 4 different Halloween part 2s, because you get
Yeah.
Halloween 2, you get the Rob Zombies Halloween 2.
H2O's
technically is a part 2, and then you get Halloween 2018 is a Halloween 2. And then you get a part 2 to that one with Halloween Kills. It's just crazy. But if you take a step back, I think Rob Zombie's 2009 Halloween 2 doesn't make the top 5, but it itches just off of it with the honorable mention. It is brutal. It is beautifully gothic. And it's very poetic in a way about the character of Michael Myers. We see him in ways we've never seen the character before. And you get to, it's a movie that people talk about, these movies deal with depression, these movies deal with like the anxiety, and then the big one, this movie deals with trauma. Well, in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, it really does visit the real world problems of somebody who, like Laurie Strode, and I love the original Halloween 2. Halloween 2018 is great too, but Laurie Strode, we've never seen her be like vulnerable in like recovering from the trauma from the original Halloween. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 puts Laurie Strode through hell. And I really feel it throughout the whole movie. It's from media, with Dr. Loomis being very predatorial in his attacks with publicity and fame, and writing off the events and the trauma these people would experience. Anyway, I'm talking way too much about an honorable mention, but Halloween 2 for Rob Zombie is an honorable mention that I have to put out there.
I still need to see them. I haven't. So I know.
Crazy.
I know. Here I am. Man, yeah, I'll check them out soon. Promise. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Promise, babe. I will.
Promise, babe. Okay. Well, I will finally. Sharp transition to a movie that I still have a DVD for. There's not very many movies I have DVDs for, but this is a movie from 2000 that I wanted to talk about, that I watched back in college. So about like 6 years ago when I watched this for the first time. And this is Wonder Boys right here. Wonder Boys has Tobey Maguire, Michael Douglas, Frances McDormand, Kate Holmes, and Robert Downey Jr. This is a fantastic movie about really kind of like one night, like at the professor's house, and a lot of really crazy things happen over this weekend period. We have Tobey Maguire, who is like one of his students who gets invited to this house, and definitely has some weird, like it crosses the boundaries with, the teacher-student relationship thing. Not like with them per se, but like just the things going on around them. So it's just kind of a very nutty film, but also like, I don't know, it's funny, it's dark, it's also very dramatic. It's a lot of serious tones to it as well. I guess, I don't know what other movie I would describe it close to, but it's also from the director of LA Confidential. So I guess, yeah, which is Curtis Hanson. But yeah, it's a movie I don't hear talked about too often. It's been a while since I've seen it, of course. It's been like 6 years, like I said. But this movie deserves a Blu-ray, in my opinion. It's a good movie, and one no one really talks about.
Bro, they still have movies only without a Blu-ray and putting on DVD. That's crazy.
Yeah, and speaking of, I had to bring this one up. It's my favorite movie of the decade, and I think you already know what it is. It's Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Zing.
I'm just kidding, but there's another honorable mention. I wanted to bring it up because anyone who is watching us right now, Chris and I, we bond over this movie. This is a movie straight from both of our childhoods that cannot escape The Fist of Fury. It's just a movie that is endlessly quotable, and honestly, we could probably just do this whole episode in quotes, but he wouldn't want to release that, so he doesn't want to get embarrassed. So
I don't have any gopher chucks.
Here, quick, grab from the chosen one.
Seriously, this movie's fucking goated. Like, when it comes to the martial arts genre, I mean, this is one of the Mount Rushmore films for me.
We got to put that on Twitter. Seriously, like do a martial arts
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Put was it Steve Odekirk on there?
Bob Odenkirk's younger, less successful brother.
God, he did Thumb Wars and Kung Pao.
Yeah. Him and that infernal tonguey.
Him and that infernal tonguey. What are you doing?
All
Why
right.
are you in bed?
All right, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to list off my last two top 5 movies of the decade.
Let's do this. Let's do 4.
All right. It's because he missed out with honorable mention because he's going to be in the top 5, but that's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Has to be in the top 5 easily. 1 or 2, you can't go wrong. I personally go with the first one because I love Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. Dude, I have this movie on VHS on Blu-ray, and I watch the VHS all the time when I get ready for work every morning. It's just,
I saw that.
It is the most comfort blanket movie ever. Like, it's crazy how we have to get separate movies of Tom Holland's Spider-Man to get maybe a small fraction of what the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire was. Like, this movie is phenomenal, and it's so smooth, and the runtime is quick. I think the action is awesome. I like everything with Peter. I like the Spider-Man sequences. I think everybody's cast perfectly in this movie. Danny Elfman's score is so iconic. Like, talk about scores. You talk about like John Williams, Hans Zimmer, and stuff like that. Danny Elfman in the Spider-Man movie is amazing. It's up there with 89 Batman with where he did that for Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
He just has a really good ear for superhero scores, and it's also very emotionally sound. Like everything Uncle Ben, like how many times we can kill him and stuff like that. Martin Sheen's portrayal of Uncle Ben is like a middle finger in my mind to what we got with Sam Raimi, because like Sam Raimi's is such a good film to depict all that. And if you want to go even into 2, both of these 2 movies, like either of these 2 movies were some of the best comic book movies ever made. And I can't help but people wondering, well, where's The Dark Knight? Where's Iron Man in these top 5 comic book movies? Or if we're talking about them in this decade. A lot of the movies that were the best for this decade when it comes to comic book movies were the early 2000s movies or like the sequels. So like Spider-Man is an early 2000, it's an early comic book movie that did well.
X2,
I think. Yeah, and Spider-Man 2, you get X-Men 1, yeah, X-Men 2. I don't care for Blade that much, but Blade 2 is phenomenal.
Del Toro.
I love Hellboy 1 and 2 as well, are phenomenal superhero films as well, or comic book movies. I'm trying to think of more off the top of my head, but all of these movies I think about way more and think are way better than what Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and what Iron Man gives me.
That's fair, and I would have to
say
everyone
like, kind of needs to realize that.
Yeah, I like your analogy with like the warm blanket feeling I get when I watch like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, because I feel that like it's interesting because like I can just picture those VHS covers, like with him, like, just on the buildings and like just reflections, and like at the same time, like, I don't know, they're just very warm feeling movies. Like they just feel warm. Maybe it's just like the way it was shot, but also at the same time, like you have Sam Raimi, who's just like such a warm dude, because he's just he's got so much energy, and he's got like such a unique energy to him that, yeah, I like, getting ready for this upcoming Spider-Man movie makes me very excited, because I really want to get the 4Ks of the first 3. like really bad now, like because like I'm like shoot, like it's been a couple years since I've seen them, but like I've been itching for them, not even before the news of all this this culmination of the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, but like yeah, these other ones are like warm blankets, and that's the thing.
I think that's where it's weird. We get through a period of superhero movies starting out. Like you think of Richard Donner's, Superman films, and Tim Burton's Batman movies in the 90s and stuff. And these movies kind of had a hard time of balancing realism with
Comic book.
the hokey campiness of things. And in the 2000s, they're more focused on the action, but what they get right with it on top of that is the storytelling is very great writing, I think. And they balance different subgenres, like these movies, the ones I listed, like you talk about Blade 1 and 2, Spider-Man 1 and 2, Hellboy 1 and 2, X-Men 1 and 2. They balance really great action, but also good comedy, really good costume designs. You get some very good serious tone parts of the movie. They have an overlaying arc of human emotion, and like they're concerned with the characters and the world they're in, and it has something to say about that, like in comparison to something like The Dark Knight and The Batman Begins, where The Dark Knight, because I know that's one people will talk about the most, it's basically, that movie's basically philosophy, intro to philosophy and the war on terrorism post 9/11 vibes, with a coat of Batman paint on it, like that's kind of what The Dark Knight's becoming for me. It's not very watchable as much anymore. It's too over obsessed with itself. It insists upon itself to say, because of its kind of structure and what it's kind of diving, like it's what it's pulling from, that I don't care as much. Like 89 Batman is going to be more of a better movie for me to watch than The Dark Knight, and Batman Begins. I can't tell you the last time I wanted to ever watch that movie.
That's my favorite of the three, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm getting heated with comic book movies. I know. I think it's because this new Spider-Man movie's coming out.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna rein you back in, but also at the same time keep a little bit of that fantasy, because now we're gonna go with another superhero who is not a superhero in this movie, Hugh Jackman. But this is a movie from 2006, and actually is probably my favorite Darren Aronofsky film, and I'm talking about The Fountain.
And good. I was getting thirsty.
Here, open up. But yeah, we got Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman in this movie. This is one of the first films that like I remember like just gushing, like just crying, because I was just like so blown away by how crazy and weird this sci-fi film is. Like it's a sci-fi romance movie. Like it just kind of transcends time a little bit. It's kind of this weird epic film that kind of transcends like between three different time periods. And Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman are in each of these different time periods as like different, like kind of star-crossed lover kind of related things here. But it's just like such an emotionally driven and visual film as well. There's also just like a fantastic score. Why can't I think of Clint Mansell, who I really actually like his films that I've seen that he's done scores for, but like it's just like it's an intense movie. And Aronofsky, I mean, that's what Aronofsky is. He makes intense films. Like Requiem for a Dream is an insanely intense film, and so is films like Magnolia and other films that he's done recently, like Mother. But The Fountain is definitely like the one that I like the most, even though I could have chose The Wrestler during this time period, because The Wrestler is also another incredible film from Darren Aronofsky. But like The Fountain is the one that I like the most, just because like that's just my personal like love of fantasy and romance. Yeah, but
you better be able to explain exactly what that movie is about to consider it one of your favorites of the decade right now. I need an essay on my desk.
Okay. typing away. I have one more honorable mention before I jump into my last one. Do you have any? Do you have any more? Are you done?
Nope. List it, brother.
Okay. This is an honorable mention only because it's literally these are the best films of all time. And everyone knows I would say this. So the reason I'm not choosing it is because of that. But it's these. I don't know what your final choice is, but for me, Lord of the Rings are like the perfect films. All three of them combined. I anytime anyone asks me what my favorite films are, like favorite film is, I always say Lord of the Rings, and I say all of them. Obviously, people can nitpick and be like, "Oh, which one do you like the most?" And it honestly changes every single year, which one I like the most. But yeah, Lord of the Rings is just, it's got everything I want. Yeah, go watch it. And yeah, what about you, Chris? What do you got to say about Lord of the Rings?
Grew up watching them. They're the best things ever. Definitely my December watches always have to have consideration for the Lord of the Rings, always. Two Towers my favorite, obviously sequel guy, love sequels, but all three of them I've watched equally and have such a share and love for, I do kind of want to get up my upgrades, but I love the extended editions I have on Blu-ray that I don't want to give them up.
That over there. I have the DVDs across the bay, the green, the red, and the blue DVDs. You remember those? I have those over there, and then I have the gold with the ring, the Blu-ray collection over here, and then I have the 4K here because I just can't quit this trilogy.
One of those mediums where it's like I can always watch them so many times, get invested in the world, combined with my own real world, and then like read the books and be a nerd about that stuff. It's definitely easy to be that for me.
I think out of our group, I'm not gonna say any names, but like I feel like this is like our favorite trilogy of a bunch of us. Or some of our favorite films of all time. You and me. I can think of Seth, who's been on the channel with us before. We gush about these movies.
Yeah, when it comes to trilogies, it's going to be up there for sure. Like we talked about, like the X-Men trilogy, we talked about this trilogy. Now, the Cornetto trilogy, the Shrek trilogy, the Godfather trilogy. The last movie I want to talk about is a trilogy movie as well.
Shoot. Well, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Yeah, my last movie, I think is the best in the decade. It's not the best movie, but it's in the top 5. They're not in any order, like 1 through 5. They're just like, these are the 5 for me. But it's Rob Zombie again with The Devil's Rejects. Like, he made 4 amazing movies in a decade, and The Devil's Rejects is that one for me. And it's a trilogy film. It's the second in the trilogy. You get The House of a Thousand Corpses, you get this, and then you get finally 3 from Hell, which I've come around on. So it's one of the strongest trilogies of all time, and I say it all the time again. Rob Zombie is one of the most criminally underrated directors in Hollywood. Why he doesn't get money for his work is beyond me. He, with The Devil's Rejects, made the best horror movie we've gotten in the last 25 years. Like, I think I can't watch a horror movie and not think about where it stands with The Devil's Rejects for me, because it's just so fucking good. It works on a horror standpoint, storytelling, technical level, the acting. Bill Moseley is one of the best actors that I've seen in my entire life. Like, I think Bill Moseley should be in more movies, even outside of the horror genre, because he's phenomenal. Like, why was he in Halloween Kills? Why wasn't Bill Moseley like playing one of the cops in the movie? Why was he one of the guys that hadn't feel people saying like evil dies tonight? Like, I need to I need him trying to jump Michael Myers or something. Like, he needs to have more work because he's too damn talented to not. And Sherry Moon Zombie is baby in the Firefly family. I think her best performance is in this movie. I think she's just so evil. And then, Sid Haig, rest in peace to him. I like him more in House of a Thousand Corpses, Captain Spaulding, but he gets more to do in this movie at the very least. And it's a movie about revenge, understanding the insane. And and like how far family goes to help each other, and that can always be very toxic, and this movie very much understands that. So,
Mhm.
and it's a road movie. Like you talk about, like There Will Be Blood or No Country for Old Men, like
They're
these
literally walking on a
road,
road.
yeah, like road western movies, like The Devil's Rejects is kind of that too, but it's better. So The Devil's Rejects is one of my favorite movies in the decade. It's one of the best movies of the decade, I think. And I think it's because it has the name Rob Zombie and people don't want to take it seriously, but I really do think so. Also, I said 4 Rob Zombie movies. I meant 5 because he did House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects,
Ah,
Halloween's 1 and 2, and The Haunted World of El Super Bisto.
that's what I was thinking you were going to say. The
He
animated
did an
film.
animated movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
guy's talented.
Yeah. Well, I've only seen House of a Thousand Corpses. I haven't actually seen. I know for people watching, like I haven't seen all of.
Bruh.
I know. I'll have to check it out one day. But me just guessing here. Does it have any like kind of spiritual, like if I would have to compare it to another like vibe feeling of a movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, nothing is like that. But Rob
Just the
Zombie, his
insanity of
biggest,
like having fun of like just murder and mayhem and all that stuff.
yeah, but it gets down and dirty a lot of times in the House of a Thousand in Devil's Rejects. House of a Thousand Corpses is more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's just
Okay,
it's like the
that's where I
Fun
was getting
House
at.
and Texas Chainsaw Massacre mixed together. Rob Zombie is a smart dude. He loves old Universal monsters movies, and he loves the gritty Wes
Toby
Craven,
Hooper.
Toby Hooper
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
And he gets some draw from Carpenter in some aspects, but not too much more.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he just really is in love with those Craven slash Hooper films, and you get kind of like the some of the Universal monster homages as well.
Hmm.
He's a smart filmmaker. I mean, he loves film. He knows his shit.
He's a super beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. Those are excellent picks, and a lot of them I haven't seen, and some of them I haven't seen in like a very, very long time. So that's I got some homework to do. Now my last choice. Now I don't know if everyone's kind of been seeing my picks. I haven't been choosing. I've been trying to choose movies that aren't necessarily talked about too often. So this is another movie that kind of was near the end of Robin Williams' life. And this was from 2009, so it's later in the 2000s. But it's a film it's a dark comedy, but it's really dark. And I'm talking about The World's Greatest Dad. World's Greatest Dad right here. And it's actually directed and written by Bobcat Goldthwait, of all people.
Jeez.
But have you seen this movie?
No, I've only
Oh.
seen that cover.
Yeah. Well, so this movie, it's kind of crazy because Robin Williams, he's a teacher. He's kind of just not uninspired. He's got a son. Doesn't I don't think he has a wife. It's been a second since I've seen it, but he's got a son who's like 15 years old, and he's like just like sex obsessed and like just like masturbates all the time. And what happens is there's something tragic happens to the son, and more or less Robin Williams like makes it kind of into like is like he's kind of embarrassed what happens, and so he kind of makes something up, and everyone starts like seeing him in a different light and like is like really proud of him and happy for him, but it's like all based on a lie. And but like it's like I said, it's a dark comedy, so there's really weird comedic parts of it, but also at the same time it's a drama. Like it's a really hard movie to watch because there's a lot of really hard-hitting things happening in this movie. And the reason I like it so much, and unfortunately this is like an association that I have with it, just because, but obviously with Robin Williams and what he struggled with, like I just can't help but his performance was heightened by the fact that he probably could tap into this energy really easily. And and that's unfortunate because obviously, what happened to him. So and so this movie actually has like a weird, really weird spot in my heart. just because, like I said, it's a really dark movie, but it's also Robin Williams, and he had some dark things going on in his life. So, but yeah, this cover is really funny, but
Yeah.
like,
It's iconic in an odd way.
yeah, but like it's a movie that I think everyone should see, and a movie that doesn't get talked about enough. So.
I always get that. I always thought that movies in this shared universe is that and Dan in real life.
Yeah, it's just the coffee cup and like maybe he had some pancakes maybe on top of his head or like laying on the pancakes as Dan in real life was. That's a movie I need to rewatch too, didn't we? Yeah, somebody talked about that recently. I can't remember.
I just know I just know about that movie. I've never actually seen it, so
I rented it back in the day. All right. Any final thoughts on the 2000s, buddy?
It was a strong decade, one of the best, one we don't deserve, but we often remember.
So yeah, no, I love this decade as well, and it's definitely one that has quite a bit of fun and just a bunch of random things in it. Like, you know, like there's a lot of classics in there. There's a lot of you know, comedic things for us. There's also a lot of you know, epic things that we really enjoy, and romance, and it's all over the map. Horror as well, you know, like there's a really, you know, it's an eclectic mix. So but anyway, before you know, we sign off, we want to know what some of your favorite films from the 2000s are. Let us know in the comment section. Please tell us and fight us on our opinions too. We'd love to get in some battles.
I will engage, don't worry. I will not hold back.
He responds to my bots for me, which is the best thing. But yeah, Chris, where could everyone find you?
Yeah, you can go on Hertastic Reviews, my YouTube channel. I upload all my podcast episodes on there too. My podcast is Inside the Sequel, which you can listen to on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere you can find your podcast. It's right there. We talk about sequel movies that do not get enough love or attention, and we always have a guest on there, and it's always a good time. I'm most times drunk in some capacity. We've had really amazing guests throughout the year. We finished our first year a couple months back, and yeah, email the show at sequelpod@gmail.com. And yeah, give me your thoughts on like episodes, what you'd like to see. If you'd like to ever be a guest on there, follow me on Twitter at Hertastic_Chris as well.
I'll be putting those in the comment section down below, or in the description section. Yeah, above the comment section, everyone. I know where things are. But yeah, Chris, I love your podcast and I love your channel, even though it's, you know, the podcast more so now. And yeah, there's a lot of really fantastic guests on there. I'm very thankful to be one of them. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing what the future comes, because there's so many sequels to explore. So
seriously, the YouTube channel won't come back unless people really do want it, but I haven't really felt like people do want it back.
Well, that's a good way to end this. All right. But anyway, I want to say thank you all for watching this. I know it was quite a journey. So let us know what you think down in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a like, share, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.